Okay, so we are going into the fourth lecture on second unit, and we are into the embedded systems for IoT. So we have already seen what is embedded systems, what is IoT. Then we have already seen IDE. Then in the last lecture, we have seen hardware and software and operating system, real-time operating system. And we have also seen how embedded systems are important for IoT, what the role embedded systems plays for the IoT. So this is the revision for unit number 2. With this lecture, we'll be seeing all those concepts which we have seen one by one. So first of all, we always revise the first title of the course always. So again, a revision: a system is an arrangement in which all its unit assemble work together accordingly to set of rules. Then embedded means something that is attached with the another thing. Embedded system can be thought of as computer hardware with software embedded in it. And Internet of Things is nothing but the network of physical objects or person or idea called as things that are embedded with software, electronics, network, and sensors, and that allows these objects to collect and exchange the data. So the most important thing is that you're going to talk, the objects are going to talk with each other. They by through collect through the exchange of the data within themselves. So that is what the embedded systems for the IoT is concerned. So this is also, we have seen what is the role. So we know that the embedded systems are very important, and that's why it is used in deployment of IoT solutions. Major players in embedded systems are actually aiming to transform their products in order to take advantage of IoT markets. And it also includes network hardwaring in a lot of applications, including hardware to home automations. Then the embedded systems can be an independent system, or it could be a part of larger systems. So there are some small embedded systems which will be working together, or it may be like an independent embedded system. So they may be dependent on each other, or independent of each other. So an individual embedded system could be there, or it could be an embedded system part of a larger system. So embedded systems is a microcontroller or microprocessor system which is designed to perform a specific task for repeatedly specific task. That is for embedded system is used. Example: a fire alarm is an embedded system. When it gives an alarm as soon as it will sense the smoke. So it is repeatedly performing the same task. As soon as it senses the smoke, it will give an alarm. So you can see the embedded systems for manufacturing equipments, domestic appliances, audio-visual equipments, gaming consoles, and telecommunication equipments, medical devices, cars and vehicles, motion sensors, etc. Then the characteristics of embedded systems. So there are different characteristics of embedded system. The first one is a single function. So it is single function means it is usually used to perform specialized operation and does the same repeatedly. For example, a pager is always functions as a pager. Tightly constrained. All the embedded systems have constraints on design metrics. These design metrics is a measure of implementation features such as cost, size, power, and performance. It must be of size to fit into a single chip, must perform fast enough to process data in real time, and consumes minimum power to extend the battery. So these are tightly constraints. So obviously, when an embedded systems have constraints on design metrics, then what are the design metrics? Obviously related with cost, size, power, and performance. And then tightly constrained means it should fit to the size of the single chip. It should be fast enough to process the data in real time, consumes less power, and extend battery life. So these are the tight constraint type of embedded systems. Then reactive and real time, these embedded systems react to the system's environment and must compute certain results in real time without any delay. So obviously these are the characteristics that is related with the react how it reacts to the changes that is happening in the environment, as well as how it computes the results in real time. Example: a cruise controller which continuously monitors and reacts to the speed and brake sensors. So obviously monitoring of the car cruise controller is nothing but it keeps on reacting to all the changes that is happening with the speed, brake, etc. It must also compute acceleration repeatedly within limited time, as delay computation can result in failure to control the car. So this is very important characteristics, as it has to react to the changes that has been happening in the environment, as well as it has to work in uh, uh, real time to the keep on continuously controlling the things. Then the characteristics could be based on microprocessor or a microcontroller based. Then memory. It must have a memory, as its software is usually stored in ROM and does not need any secondary memory. Then connected, it must have connected peripherals to connect input and output devices. Hardware and software systems. Software is used for more features and flexibility, whereas hardware is used for performance and security. This is the basic structure of embedded systems. So you can see that there is a sensor which is having an analog output. When it is sensed, it is given to the analog to digital converter, so which will convert these senses into digital or discrete form. And then this is given to the memory, and then it is given a memory as well as to the processor and ASIC, so which is an application specific integrated circuits. So they are exchanged with the memory, so the data is also stored in the memory and it is processed. Now we have a digital output at the processor, which is given to D to A converter, which is an analog, where in actuator it is compared with the reference in the reference output, and then checking is concerned does happen. So the reference will be with the actuators, and accordingly the output will be generated. So from sensor to A to D converter, to processor, to D to A converter, and then to the actuator. So this is the basic structure of embedded systems. Now, types of embedded systems. So there are two types of embedded systems. It could be depending upon based on performance and functional requirement. It is having in real time, standalone, networked, and mobile types of embedded systems. Based on the performance of the microcontroller, if we have small scale, medium scale, and sophisticated types of microcontrollers. So depending upon the applications, or based upon the performance and functional requirements, they are divided into various types. First one is a standalone embedded system. As the name suggests, it does not require a host system like a computer or processor, as it works by itself and displays the data on the connected device or make necessary changes on the device. Then the standalone means completely doesn't require a host system like computer or processor. It works itself. Second is a real-time embedded system. When the output is required for a particular time, a real-time embedded systems is used. So this real-time is nothing but a specific task to be performed. In specific task is to be performed within the time constraint. Within the time constraint, at that time real time embedded systems are very important. So that is means when a deadline is given for the project, at that time real time becomes a very important, as well as it will come as a savior on the time. Network embedded systems, when the program is running inside another device, a network is formed. This is called as the network embedded systems, where running a program is controlled by a microprocessor or microcontroller. So when a program is running inside another device, a network is formed. This is called as a network embedded systems, where running a program is controlled by the controller or microprocessor. Then mobile embedded systems, all the devices that are portable and working with embedded systems is mobile embedded systems. So we can say that mobile embedded system is nothing but the device which are portable with it. Though there is a limitations of memory and functionality, but its portability and handy systems are very much useful for all the people. Now, types of the embedded systems, depending upon depending upon the performance of the microcontroller. So now first one is a small scale embedded systems. Now these small scale embedded systems are nothing but 8 or 16-bit microcontrollers which are used to design and work with the help of data in the system. Several programming tools are used to develop small scale embedded systems. So the hardware is very small, processor is very slow, and the memory is also less. So it's a very small scale embedded system, so everything is limited. The codes for developing these embedded systems are written in with the help of IDE. So you have to remember it is 8 or 16-bit microcontroller. Then second, several programming tools can be used. The hardware is small, processor is less, memory is also less, and the code can be written with the help of IDE. The second is a medium scale embedded systems. It is 16-bit or 32-bit microcontroller used to develop medium systems. So this is 16 actually. 16-bit or 32-bit microcontrollers. Then this also can these can be developed with the help of DSPs and RISCs. Then the hardware and software functionalities are complex little bit with the use of many programming tools. Like small scale, it could be also programmed in IDE, and we can use medium scale systems for high end applications with large memory and data processing. So it's overall one and on, we can say that medium scale is nothing but it could be a combination of some small scale embedded systems working together. They are 16 or 32-bit microcontrollers. Also these can be developed with the help of DSPs and RISCs. Then they can be programmed with the help of IDE and can be used in high end applications and with a large memory and processing the data. Then third one is the sophisticated embedded systems. So these types of embedded systems are complex embedded systems. They have a complex hardware and software, and that's why sophisticated embedded systems requires registers for of huge memory, scalable processors, and IP so that the system can work well in the environment. Then they are used in systems with graphical screens, touchpads, and cutting edge options where hardware and software are equally needed for the performance. So these are the sophisticated embedded systems. Again, it could be a combination of small embedded systems or a medium scale embedded systems. So the hardware and software are complex, and hence they are said to be as the sophisticated embedded systems. Now, the most important part is role of embedded systems in IoT. The embedded systems are low power consumption units that are used to run a specific task. So I have already said that they are low power consumption unit which is used to run a specific task repeatedly. For example, it may be remote control, so you can repeatedly use it. Washing machine, it can be repeatedly used and it can also perform specific tasks. Micro ovens also same thing. RFID tags, sensors, thermostats used in various applications. So it is been used to run a specific task repeatedly in within a stipulated time. Then the networking hardware such as switches, routers, modern mobile phones, PDAs, etc. are also used. Usually embedded devices is a part of a larger device where they can perform specific task of the device. So I have already said that it could be combination of a small scale embedded systems or large scale embedded systems, or both together to make a bigger to a larger embedded systems. Then in home automation, embedded systems can be a wired or wireless networking can be used to automate and control large scale systems, sense climate change, monitoring, etc. Then these are the functionalities that are being used to perform. The area that is going to transform are RTOS, microprocessors, microcontrollers, followed by the memory footprints, networking, open source communities, and developers. And the requirement could be the should perform a specific task. That is the most important thing. Then second is the uh, must have ROM and RAM. Then must read the input. Then real time computation is must be possible. produce output, and timely task execution. So this is the requirement of the embedded systems in IoT. Then this is the examples of embedded systems: larger laser printers, digital cameras, automotive embedded systems, automatic washing machines, in PDA, personal digital assistant, as in industrial robots, automated teller machines, and calculators. Then these are some of the advantages of embedded systems. It is able to cover a wide variety of environments, less likely to encode the errors. Then embedded systems simplified hardware which reduces the cost overall, offers an enhanced performance. The embedded systems are useful for mass production, offers an enhanced performance. The embedded systems are useful for mass production. It is highly reliable. It has a very few interconnections. The embedded systems is small in size. It has fast operations, offers the improved product quality. It optimizes the use of system resources, and it has a low power operation. So all these things are the advantages of the embedded systems. So with the advantage, it has also some of the disadvantages. Like, to develop an embedded systems needs a high development effort. Obviously, when you want to develop a very complex or sophisticated embedded systems, you need to put a very high development effort behind that. Then it needs a long time to market. um, Embedded systems do a very specific task, so it can't be programmed to different things. Then embedded systems offer a very limited resources for memory. It doesn't offer any technological improvement, as it is been continuously developed for repeated task for the stipulated time. And it is difficult to backup of the embedded, it is difficult to take backup of embedded files. Then these are the applications of embedded systems. So one is a robotic science, where ground vehicles, drone, underwater vehicles, industrial robots. Um, then medical, for dialysis machine, infusion pumps, cardiac monitor. Then automotive, like engine control, ignition systems, brake systems. Networking, like routers, hubs, gateways. Home devices like TVs, digital alarm, air conditioning, DVD, video players, cameras, etc. Automobiles, like fuel injection, lighting system, door locks, airbags, windows, parking assistance systems, etc. So these are some of the applications of embedded systems. Now, different components. So mostly there are three different components. One is a hardware, second is a software, and third one is a real-time operating systems. So the hardware may be a sensor, ADC, processor, DAC, actuators, and the software may be a bootloader, operating system, or the system program. Then power supply, it may require 5-volt power supply, or it may range from 1.8 to 3.3 volt. Then the processor could be an 8-bit, 16-bit, or 32-bit processor. So lesser the bit, smaller the applications as far as the embedded systems are concerned. And the processor is mostly responsible for the performance of embedded system. Then comes memory. Data is stored temporarily in RAM, whereas the ROM is useful for storing the program. When the system is switched on the embedded system, it fetches the code from ROM memory. Timers and counters. Most of the time, there is a requirement of a delay that is needed to be provided in the application. So these delays can be given through timers and counters. Also, they can be used for continuing the blinking of the LEDs. Then the programming can be done in such a way that delay can be generated in the embedded systems. The delay time span can be decided by oscillator and system frequency, so that the delay can be generated as per the requirement. Then communication port is a type of interface that is used to communicate with the other types of embedded systems. Then multiple type of communication ports are like UART, USB, Ethernet, RS-232, 485, and many more. So 232 is been mostly used for lesser distance, whereas if you want to go for a higher distance, then RS-485 can be used. When an embedded system is used in small scale applications, then communication port can be used from microcontroller. There are serial protocols that can be used for sending the data from one system board to the another board. Output and input. So obviously the embedded system also depends upon what kind of input is been given to the embedded systems. The processor used in the embedded system could be based on input and output. The proper configuration needs to be done by using input and output port. So there are fixed input and output ports, so the devices can be connected to the specified ports only. For example, P0, P1, P2, and many more can be. Then circuits in applications, so depending upon the applications, the circuits can be used. Example is that the temperature sensor applications, you can say that for temperature sensor, for measuring the temperature, you need to require the circuit. Sorry. For measuring the temperature with the help of temperature sensor, you may require the circuit based on the temperature sensor, so that measuring of the temperature will be possible. When all the hardware components are selected for an embedded system, next task is to select the software components for designing an embedded systems. The first one is the assembler. Assembler is used when the assembly language is used for designing the applications. This assembly language program is converted then into a hex code so that it can be further processed. And after writing the code, the programmer can be used to write the program in the chip. So that is what the assembler is used. So assembler is normally used when the assembly language is used for writing the applications. Then emulator is a software tool that is used to execute the functions of the host system. All the components can be controlled by the emulator tool. The emulator is also used for finding the bugs and debugging the code, and it could be also used to transfer the code from the host system to the target system. Then the compiler. The compiler is a type of a software that is used to convert the programming language into some languages that a target machine can understand. See, this is very important, as the compilers have, there are separate compilers for machine for the programming language, because as the language that is written in the host may be different than the target machine, so you need to have that language. So this compiler is used to convert that programming language to the language that is understood by the target machine, and then execute the function. The basic use of the compiler is to transfer the high level code into a low level code. Example includes machine code, object code, and assembly code. Then software that manages the computer hardware resources and provides a common services for computer program. It is a vital component of the system software in a computer system. An operating system is an interface between computer user and hardware. So it is acting as a source between a computer user and a computer hardware. Then operating system is a software which performs all basic tasks like file management, memory management, process management, handling input and output, and controlling peripheral devices such as disk drives, printers, etc. Some popular operating systems include Linux operating system, Windows operating system, etc. Then these are the important functions of operating system that has been carried out. One is a memory management, process management, device management, file management, security, control over the system performance, job accounting, error detecting, coordination between other software and users. Then this is the real-time operating system. So it is commonly called as RTOS. It is actually a software component that rapidly switches between the tasks, giving an impression as if multiple programs are being executed at the same time on a single processing core. But that is not true. It is actually switching fast between different tasks. So it gives an impression whereas multiple programs are executing. So RTOS is actually very much useful in order to complete the task within this stipulated period of time. So that also as per the scheduling, it provides a mechanism to let the processor run a process as per scheduling by following a plan to control the latencies. So this is the real-time operating system, a difference between OS and RTOS. RTOS is mainly tells about the way the system works. Then it is sets the rules during execution of application problems. Then the small scale embedded systems may not have an RTOS. Then difference between OS and RTOS is can be understood from this example. The RTOS defines the way the system works. It sets the rule during execution of application problem. A small scale embedded systems may not have RTOS. So the difference is that it provides a non-deterministic soft real-time response where there is no guarantee as to which task will be completed, but they will try to be responsive to the user. Whereas in real-time operating system, it provides a hard real-time response, providing a fast, highly deterministic response to external events. Scheduling algorithms are round robin, cooperative, and hybrid scheduling, whereas the real time operating systems are priority based scheduling. Now, why use real time operating systems? One is priority based scheduling. The ability to separate critical processing from non critical is a powerful tool. So obviously the priority based scheduling is that if one task is running and suddenly user gives the another task that is important and gives the priority, gives it a higher priority, at that time the real time operating system will give the priority to the second task that is to be completed. Then abstracting timing information, then maintainability, extensibility, then modularity promotes team development, easier testing, code reuse, improved efficiency, and ideal processing are some of the ways the real-time operating systems uh, to be used. That is most important. Then comes the IDE, which is called as an integrated development environment that enables the programmer to consolidate different aspects of writing a complete program. So if you want to write a program for example, Arduino, then where you're going to write, there has to be some kind of environment where you could write the program. So while you can write the program in integrated development environment, and then you can download the program into the Arduino microcontroller into Arduino. So you need some kind of programs to be execution. So IDE increase the programmer's productivity by combining the common activities of writing software into single application, that is editing source code, building executables, and debugging. IDE presents a single program in which all development is done. This program typically provides many features for authoring, modifying, compiling, deploying, and debugging software. Most modern IDEs have code completion. It provides a facility for the computer programmers for software development, and some IDEs contain compiler, interpreter, or both. Then the various IDEs that are useful for embedded developments and that are available in the markets are Eclipse, Kale, Arduino, NetBeans, Komodo, MPLAB, Code Composer, LabVIEW, MicroC for PIC. Now we'll see some of the examples of the IDE, how they works out to be. So let us take an example of Eclipse. It's a free IDE that could be used. It's an open source Eclipse movement that has a major factor in the software industry because it offers developer a free comprehensive IDE. It offers the embedded system developers for a very specific development tool to be easily developed, integrated, and deployed within the embedded systems. It is like example we can take to be an analogous to the car. So the Eclipse platform can be seen as a framework of a car, and everything that is plugged into that framework is the resulting product being a complete running development environment. This plugin could be also an essential to the environment. Example, the engine of the car is very much essential. So you can see that through this how Eclipse works out to be. You do have an framework, so that is an Eclipse platform framework to which all the to which all the things are plugged in and executed. Then understanding Arduino, it is also an open source electronic platform based on easy to uh, use hardware or software. This IDE runs on Windows, Macintosh, and Linux operating system. It is available for extensions by experienced programmer. It is a single board microcontroller. It can sense environment by receiving input from varieties of sensors and affects its surrounding by controlling light, motors, and actuators. It is inexpensive. The Arduino software can be expanded through C, C++ libraries. This is the microcontroller based embedded system. So you can see that the number of sensors are connected to the signal conditioning. The signal conditioning will be converting this analog to digital, can converting these analog inputs coming through different sensors into digital output, which is given to the microcontroller, where it will be controlled, processed, and then it will be given to the output interface and actuators, where the comparison will be made with the reference output in order to get the required output. So depending upon the microcontrollers you can use, depending upon the type of microcontroller and application used, you can design embedded systems. Then the Linux based embedded system is also there. So Linux is found to be found in embedded systems in many sizes, from mobile phones, home appliances, or vehicles. Many factors contribute to Linux popularity, that because it is an open source, a very strong and committed community maintain and improve Linux regularly. It is a very flexible and support any hardware architecture you can imagine. Because it is deployed in millions of devices, its code is constantly tested in many different scenarios, hence it's robust. It is supported by huge ecosystems of software that consist of both runtime software and development of tools. Then examples of Linux-based embedded systems, it could be used in a flight entertainment system, because the Linux is particularly suited, as it is very simple, not weighed down by accompanying programs, and easily adaptable to many environments. Then it was also used in cafes and bake shops, where the information about the menus can be displayed on message. So that was totally based on Linux system. And a gas station pump could be also based on the Linux based system. Like the server displays the message of Linux bootloader, and this gas station is powered by the Linux Ubuntu distribution with kernel 2.6.35. This is the Linux based embedded system components, how it is been there. So you have a root file system, under which there is an application and system program. Then there is a Linux kernel, a bootloader, device tree, and a hardware. So one by one we can see this. The first one is a bootloader. So it is the software executed to power up, to set up the hardware to run the operating system. So that is, it's like a similar what your bootloader of your computer does. Then device tree, a tree data structure with nodes that describe the physical devices in the hardware needed by Linux kernel to initialize properly the device drivers. Then Linux kernel, the operating system code providing all the services to manage the hardware resources. And system program, user-friendly utilities to access operating services. Mainly here Linux kernel is very important, as the operating system code which is providing all the services to manage the hardware resources. Then application software implementing the functionalities to be delivered to the embedded system user. Then the root file system, container of the Linux kernel configuration file, the system programs and applications. And these are the assignment questions. Still many students have not done the tutorial which is given as an assignment, and I hope that you complete that, because I have also provided the link yesterday. And if you're not going to complete it, then I'm extremely sorry, I cannot give you marks, as the tutorial is the first and most important criteria for giving the marks for ICA, that is the term work assessment. So internal continuous assessment, you need to have these tutorials together. So I hope that you have understood that you have to complete the tutorials. There is no other option. You cannot give me any kind of reason that you have not completed the tutorials or you don't want to, because if you require marks to be marks to get, you need to complete these tutorials. So we'll take the attendance.